Excessive Celebration right here on Crossover Sports Radio. And at the end of the show, we'll talk about the games that you can find on the Crossover family of networks this weekend. Really quickly, though, we want to look at Oklahoma and Oklahoma State's opponents next week on Keep Your Enemies Closer. We're going to do that very quickly because one of these teams we're very familiar with because we had them last week when we did Keep Your Enemies Closer. That would be the vaunted Texas Tech Red Raiders. Matt Wells, the first-year coach. They lost Alan Bowman. Jet Duffy will be starting on Saturday in Lubbock. Texas Tech is 2-2, 0-1 in the Big 12. They're averaging 28.3 points per game, Bill. They have 14 touchdowns, a third down conversion rate of 40%, a fourth down conversion rate of 37.5%. They're averaging 286.5 yards per game passing, which seems somewhat low for Texas Tech. 173 yards per game running for a total of 460. That's still fairly balanced. Giving up 3 picks, they're averaging, this is an interesting stat, they're averaging almost 10 yards per punt return, which I think is pretty impressive. Averaging 10 yards punt return. Yeah. And their punter averages 45 yards, which is even more important for this team right now.
And think about how many times he punts the ball.
Yeah, and you know something, Bill? I was looking at this. They've played 4 games, and they've been penalized 23 times for 204 yards. That's really less than 6 a game and about 51. So they're not really beating themselves that much. They just don't have the horses yet offensively. They certainly lost Bowman, and I just don't see them putting up a whole lot of a fight. We recapped the game with Oklahoma. Armand Shine and SaRodorick Thompson, Tayshawn Henry, the running backs, they did okay. I think their running game, it's funny to say, might be better than their passing game at this point. We're talking Texas Tech. But they have T.J. Vasher and Dalton Rigdon, Xavier White, and then my favorite player, McLean Mannix. Because I'm old enough to remember a TV show with Joe Mannix. I bet you're not.
I am not.
I was going to say because I must have been about 8 or 9 when that show was on. But it was more entertaining than watching Texas Tech, that's for sure. So this was the Texas Tech story right here. Now we're going to talk about maybe an even worse program, Bill's Kansas Jayhawks.
Oh, they're on the come. They're on the up.
2-3, 0-2 in the league. Les Miles, the Mad Hatter, the crazy guy from Fanville, the got electrocuted on the roof. They're averaging 23.4 points a game, Bill. 353 yards a game. Their third down percentage, 36.21. Their fourth down percentage, 0. And it's not like they haven't tried. They're 0 for 5. Passing, yards per game, 189. Rushing, 164. Their quarterback, Carter Stanley, has pretty much played every snap. He's got a 65.1% completion rate. Khalil Herbert, 384 yards on the ground, 8.9. Puka Williams, 308, a 4.6 average. I think we anticipated maybe Puka to be doing better, but that's not bad. Receiving, okay, I've always said this guy looks good on paper. Andrew Parchment.
Mm-hmm.
See what I did there?
I see it.
Do you see it?
I see it.
So if you bring in Andrew Parchment next year in the month of August, you might be able to help out Bethany Public Schools downstairs. Dalen Charlotte and Stephen Robinson are the other wide receivers that have made a difference. I got to tell you, just because this guy's name is maybe one of the greatest ever, the cornerback for Texas Tech, Hassan Defense. He has 1 pick, 9 tackles, 6 solos, and
where's defense? Where's defense? Get him on the field.
Defense. By the way, that defense is 98th in the country right now, giving up 5.37 yards per play and 424 yards a game. The fact that Arizona could run on them like they did.
Yeah.
I got a feeling Oklahoma State's going to be able to run the ball on these guys.
Yeah, it doesn't bode well.
And if you decide that you're not going to do that, they've got small corners and they don't have enough of them that they can put on the field to stop what would happen if they load up the box. I don't see this game being very close. It's in Lubbock. Oklahoma State hasn't lost in Lubbock for 11 years. Of course, they hadn't lost in Austin either for the same amount of time. So we'll see, but I just don't think that Kansas is going to put up much of a fight, and I don't think that Texas Tech is. Oklahoma State actually has a bye week after this, so if they can get by Texas Tech, they're going to be in pretty good shape, at least in terms of standings and their place in the polls for a couple more weeks. Now, could they have a meltdown? Sure, it's Oklahoma State. They're capable of snatching defeat from the jaws of victory about better than anybody else, but I really don't see that happening, Bill. What do you think about how do you see the Kansas game up there going? I'll tell you something, Bill. Can I tell you this really quick? There's a gentleman on a local radio station here that I really admire listening to. Played center and tight end, went to McGinnis High School, played at Oklahoma. He was talking about the challenge of playing at Kansas, and he said something fascinating, Gabe did.
Mm-hmm.
He said, when you're out there warming up and you can literally look up in the stands and count the number of fans that are there, if you're used to playing in front of packed houses, that it requires you then to have to kind of motivate yourself.
Yeah.
If there's a sense of nobody really cares, and he said it really requires you then to have to generate some energy. And he said they were up there and down 13-0 and realized that they needed to get it together, but it was the lack of an atmosphere that he says can cause teams to maybe come in and be a little underwhelmed at the beginning and play that way.
You know what it is? This is a strategy Kansas utilizes very,
Stay
very
away.
well.
Stay away.
They literally lock the doors so nobody comes in. They're all their fans are outside watching it on TV. There's millions trying to get in, but nope, can't get in. We can only let 50 people in. You know, I get it, right?
Are they wearing Adidas?
Maybe.
I bet they are.
I would find it tough to psych myself up for that, right?
Yeah.
You're so, even in like some bad situations or bad teams that you play around the country, it's not that level of bad to where your fans can't even fill up one side of the stadium.
Yeah.
Like, it's that bad. And I know it's going to take winning and a winning culture to get them back. And I thought with Les being around that you would have that kind of culture, not to maybe fill up the whole stadium, but to get it fuller than it's looked. And when you look at it on a TV, you've got, go pick a seat near the sideline.
Well, I'll tell you what, they better not just assume that it's going to be great once basketball rolls around, because this may be the last year that they have their coach.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on. Bill, how about we either wrap this up and come back and talk NFL real quick and then get back to our picks? That might be the best method here.
We can do that.
Plus, I'm just anxious to hear the next bumper music in or out.
Bumper. Excessive celebration, reminding you, always get good bumper music and get that app.
I thought you were going to say bump that app.
And you can bump that app. Especially from 4:30 to 6:30 on Friday.
Bump.